How we doing, YouTube? Steve here. I just thought I'd do a quick video on how many what it cost me to. I was listening to the thing, it made a weird pop. That thing did. Anyway, just thought I'd do a quick video on what the Lone Mountain truck cost me for 2023 in terms of operating cost. This is just maintenance, so this will be the maintenance operating cost for the Lone Mountain truck in 2023. So probably the biggest thing that I had that went wrong with it. So okay, I should probably start with this. It is a 2019 Peterbilt 579. It's got the Cummins X15 engine, and it has the economy setup. So it's not the high horsepower; it's the lower horsepower setup, and that's the motor that it has. And I started out with it when I bought it from Lone. I got it at Lone Mountain last year, right after Christmas. I actually bought it the week between Christmas and New Year's, so I've had it. It's exactly a year since I've had it. So in that year, I didn't run quite as many miles as I normally do. Usually I'll be up around 130,000. And this year, because the freight and everything was off, the volumes were off a little bit. I only ran 117,871. So it's just shy of 118,000 is what I ran this year. And the biggest thing that went wrong with it was the turbo actuator went out on it, and at the same time the code was flashing that. It was flashing that it needed a crankcase pressure switch, and I changed that myself, but because it's right up there on the top, pretty easy to get to. But I broke the plug-in trying to get it apart. It's a weird plug-in, and so I replaced that, and then I ended up, when I took it, it didn't fix it. It still had the D-rate code on it, so I ended up having to take it to my shop that does my work when I'm here at home. And so they ended up between fixing that wire. The actuator was about $1,700, but thank goodness it wasn't the turbo, because then it'd have been about $7,000. It ended up being to fix that with their labor, and they had to do some work on the DEF system, clean it out to get it to, because it wasn't wanting to derate, so they had a little bit of labor on that. Long story long, that was $23.45 to fix the actuator. The other thing, the next biggest thing that went bad with it is it got an air leak under the cab on one of the airlines that make the cab go up and down, and I couldn't find that. It was in a weird spot. I couldn't find it. I was spraying soap all over everywhere. I couldn't find soapy water, and they fixed that. My same shop, and then they had one of the air. Oh, at first I thought it was a leveling valve, so I put a new leveling valve on it, which I don't think it was that, but it's got a new one on it now. And then it had two of the airbags were leaking just a little bit. One of them worse than the other one, so I just changed all four airbags because we had it in the shop there. So that was $18.59 with their labor and everything to fix that leveling valve, the air leak, and the airbag. So it's got all new airbags on the back now. And both of those things I had done at my local shop. I was in Terre Haute and had a water line break underneath the cab. And they fixed that. It was in the shop for a day. I guess I didn't put the hotel in there. Isn't included in this because I had to stay in a hotel that night. But Vomac in Terre Haute, no, Vincennes. In Vincennes fixed that. They were excellent. And that was $1,133 to fix that, which was 95% of that was labor, because it was a plastic fitting or line or I don't know, something underneath there that had cracked, and it was mostly just getting everything apart to fix it, to get to it to fix it. So that was almost all labor. And they weren't that bad on labor. My local shop's like 135 for labor, and I think they were 145 or something like that. They weren't real expensive. Peterbilt's expensive. They're 195. Peterbilt and Portage. The only thing I had to have them fix this year was I had a turn signal that wasn't working, and I think I told you guys about that, but I had a turn signal that wasn't working, and all the fuses and stuff were good. It had a short in the wire that goes from the fuse box to a control gizmo, and so they just ran an overlay on the top instead of tearing the whole wiring harness apart. So that was another one of those fixes that was 99% labor, because the fitting was just 4 foot of wire and 2 connectors. That was $762 to fix that. And then I got new steer tires for it, and that was $1,716. And I have this all wrote down right on top of you on the back side of that laptop. So if it looks like that's what I'm looking at, that's what I'm looking at. And then services were about $1,113. I had a couple services done, and I did one, and so it ended up being $8,928. I just rounded it up to 9,000 because I'm sure there's probably some other things in there that I forgot. I was trying to think if I put wipers on that. I haven't put wipers on it yet this year, but I had put a headlight in it. I'd put a turn signal on it on the back. So there's been little doodads. I'm sure but that's pretty close. We're not going to miss it by very much. So about 9,000 is what it cost for that truck for the year, and that's like I said, running 117,871 miles. So it ends up being, if you want to figure it out on a yearly basis, it was 9,000 to run it for the year in terms of maintenance, and if you want to break that down by the mile, it was a little over 7.5 cents. 0.076 is what it ended up being altogether. So if you figure 10 cents a mile for maintenance, if you run 120,000 miles a year, that's going to get you pretty close to where a reasonable number. Now, as I'm looking at the list, there was nothing really major. I mean, that actuator was kind of major, but not crazy. The airbags, that's just kind of a wearable thing. So there wasn't anything that really, steer tires, I mean, that's going to get to a couple years out of them, and services and stuff. And so, there wasn't anything really major on that, and it was still almost $9,000 and nothing big. I mean, no clutches or transmissions or rear ends or any, rebuilds or anything like that. I am going to have to get new brakes on it before springtime, probably. Well, maybe not before springtime, but before summertime. When I had my last service done, or my annual inspection, the mechanic said probably by summertime I'll have to have new brakes on it. So I'll get new brakes and drums on it before summertime. And then I wouldn't doubt it. I don't know. My drives are wearing really good, but I might get new drives before next year on it. We'll just see how everything goes, how expensive it is on everything else. But otherwise, the old girls ran pretty good. So, yeah, I'm content with a little over 7 cents a mile, and I'd like to run a little more miles this year than I did last year. But the freight was so inconsistent. I mean, I can point back to, 3 of those fixes was almost a week down, every one of them. So, you take 2 weeks out of it, that's 5,000 miles right there on the, 2 or 3 weeks in the shop for maintenance. And that gets you right up there close to that 120 to 125. So it's actually the maintenance that costs you, the downtime for the maintenance is what costs you more than the actual maintenance. But alrighty, everybody, I just wanted to do this little short video. I'll try to get the other videos up the rest of the week, or later on in the week, on all the numbers for 2023. So God bless.